Good day out there. My name is Henry Harrison. Thank you for watching my video. We're going to take a look at the week of astrology coming up for December 26th through, um, I think, January 3rd, isn't it? January 1st. So, thanks for listening to my show. We're going to just quickly look at the astrology for this week ahead, starting on Sunday. So before I do that, I'd like to thank God that He would give me wisdom and understanding to look into these mysteries to the glory of His name. In Jesus' name. Amen. Hope you've been doing well. So we've got a few things coming up this week, and I was trying to make another video, or intending to, thinking about it, planning for it, because I saw that there's a visible comet right now, which is Comet Leonard. So I was reading about comets quite a bit. There's actually quite a lot in Ramsey about comets, so I was just doing some background research, but let's look at that real fast. I just want you to know about some things about these comets. Really just this one comet. Okay. So I wanted you to see that this comet, Leonard, crossed the ecliptic, which is the projected path of the sun. A very important line on the star map. Whenever you see a body cross the ecliptic, it's usually a pretty important day, or pretty important moment, or turning point. And so this star Leonard, this comet, crossed the ecliptic late on December 16th, kind of, and it crossed at 17 degrees 30 minutes of Capricorn. So when we see transits to that point, we'll probably see a more pronounced or unexpected effect, because it's an important point. So let's just show you that. So yeah, about 17 degrees. And so we have both Mercury and Venus applying to this point. Mercury's pretty much already on it. Yeah, so Mercury crosses it. Venus will apply to it and cross over it 2 times. And I bring it up because comets are usually interpreted as having a negative effect according to the place where they appeared, and of actually the natural qualifications they have as well. What color they are, how they appear, from what quarter of heaven they appear in, which there's a lot of instructions for in Ramsey, but a little too curious for me right now. I can't really judge based on it, but it is a green tinted comet. It's very bright, and we do have it in Capricorn, which, depending on which chart you're looking at, is going to affect that part of the chart. So be looking out for that, because that is something we could see this week, I think, or next week. You see that Venus will be at that point about the 11th of January. So I just wanted to at least throw that in there, in lieu of making a fuller video about it, because I would like to make a video about these comets, but I think that'll serve for right now. Alright, so we'll start talking about the planets now. So we have the moon in Virgo. Let's see here. The moon in Virgo. The moon is void of course in Virgo for most of the morning, and then enters Libra before she makes a aspect to the north and south lunar node, a trine aspect to the south node. So the south node is now in Scorpio, so this is our second aspect to the south node by the moon, which not terribly important, but you can feel that really things are shifting, where we're putting our attention here with eclipse stories, sort of thing. So the moon will be in Libra, and Mercury will make a sextile to Neptune. So Neptune confuses, Neptune creates illusions, and makes things appear real that aren't real. It allows us to create the illusion of reality of something in a particular way. And since Neptune has been in Pisces since I think 2008, 2009, we've had all of our media changed so much. We've had all of our communications altered. Mainly, we've been associated with a different kind of media that has ever been known. And that's Neptune for you, but Mercury will be in a sextile to Neptune, pretty close to Venus retrograde. So, these Venus retrograde stories are playing out, and I think being very loud here with what they signify. And with Venus so close to Pluto and Mercury still moving very fast towards that conjunction to the three of them, there's a sense of standing up to your fears and reclaiming your personal power. This Venus retrograde was 8 years ago in the end of December and the first 3 months of 2014. But Pluto is here now, and which can either be very frightening and anxiety-ridden experience, or it could be standing up to what makes you afraid. And Pluto, I think, is also it shows up in a place where there was already trauma. There was already going to be difficulty and pain there, but Pluto is like a space or a response that has awareness to it, that allows you to overcome that trauma or pain. But it can also be like just having, we're protected now in a way that we weren't 8 years ago. And whether that's us doing it for ourselves or someone else protecting us, it has that quality this time. So Mercury is in Capricorn here, making that sextile to Neptune. So there is a distortion, or otherwise a communication, sort of oceanic, dispersive kind of communication that comes through, or like that effect is happening to the communications that we're trying to have. So there's illusion or otherwise mystique about what's going on there. So the moon there is just in Libra, making a square to the sun. So the moon is losing light. We're coming off of that full moon. So really, overall, a day to be sitting with how things are kind of coming to a close for you, because we've caught the new moon in Capricorn at the beginning of January, not this week, which will really be an opportunity to make a change and to start anew, because it'll be the first new moon since the eclipse. So really charting a course in a more stable way, really. Getting something started, really. So as we go into Monday, the moon will make a sextile to Mars and a trine to Saturn, which, the moon is making an aspect to malefic planet, but both malefic planets, but there's a way that the moon can, or the situation can play out in a way that is really balancing these perspectives, I guess, because the Mars is applying a sextile to Saturn for this to be happening. So the Mars and the Saturn energy is working pretty well here together. And we should say that this week Jupiter goes into Pisces. So look, Jupiter is at 29 degrees of Aquarius here, getting ready to leave Pisces. And I'm sure this says something about how Jupiter will be averse to everything that happens in the Aquarius sign this next period until Jupiter moves into Aries and they're in a sign-based sextile. But the Mars and Saturn will be co-present for a while, and in Saturn-ruled signs together. So there is something about this moment that's very critical. It's very fatal. You can see that with Jupiter making that square to the north and the south node, still perfecting that. And that comes to a head here on Monday, where that will perfect that aspect. Jupiter is really moving on. Things really are changing in a fateful way. That's overall helpful, forward-looking, peaceful, peace-oriented, but not focused as much on bringing that good light and energy to the structuring, the systematizing of things in this new era. So the moon here is really feeling a lot of that, and the Saturn aspect makes it quite a cold feeling moment. But I think with the moon making a sextile to Mars, we're really connecting to our drive, our desire to go out and disperse our energies in the world in a way that somehow accords with the structure. So it's like there's an acknowledgement that it will be this Mars-Saturn dynamic that now dominates the Aquarius Capricorn domain here with Venus and Mercury. So be aware of that. That is how this day plays, how it feels really. And we can contemplate these things, I think, very easily. But as we go into Tuesday, the moon will make a square to Mercury and the square to Venus retrograde within the morning, and the square to Pluto. And then the moon will apply to the trine to Jupiter in Aquarius all day. So the moon applies to Jupiter in Aquarius. This is the last trine to Jupiter in Aquarius that we will have in this 12-year period. And this really is playing out more of the themes that we just spoke of, which the moon is connecting to them in its later degree path. So really coming to a head in terms of communications, in terms of these Venus retrograde themes, which are about boundaries and what we really deserve. Having a appropriately high standard for what you deserve and what kind of life you'll tolerate from other people, what kind of behavior you'll tolerate. So that really comes to a head there in terms of our communicating about these themes, in I think in a fair seeming way, or in a way that wants to reach right and fair conclusions. So, and it is very good that the moon is also applying to Jupiter there. So really the last moments of this period here are really coming out during this last bit here, this last moment here with the moon in Libra. And Libra is ruled by Venus. So the moon is connecting to the ruler of the sign of Venus in a difficult way, but it's Venus, it's Mercury, it's Pluto. Honestly, I've almost started looking at Pluto as a good planet, which is funny. Um, so the moon there is connecting to them all, and I don't. It's like, because I don't think it's like exactly Pluto's fault. I think Pluto is like, when it shows up in a chart, is identifying a moment where there is this anxiety, there is this fear, this unknown element, and it's the awareness and the love really that is brought to the situation that really unlocks the potential there that Pluto can represent. And when it's like in your personal life, like, that's good. It's a good thing. But you have to treat it with love and awareness. Otherwise, I think you get some of the other significations that you see with Pluto, which is like, senseless annihilation, or just extreme power directed in a way that's not aware, not love. So be aware of that as we go through the end of this day. And we get the moon in Scorpio right before the Jupiter goes into Pisces. So the moon in Scorpio I feel like I lost some people right there. I'm sorry if I got off a little bit there, but I do think Pluto is definitely able to bring this awareness to the situation that's very conscious and intentional and really, really helpful if you can forgive other people. So, and then Jupiter goes into Pisces, and so I feel like there's this critical moment there with all of that, and this sense of equity, rightness, forgiveness there. And then the moon goes into Scorpio. It's kind of sort of really extra ephemeral with the moon in a way that's like not good for the moon. It really, like, things kind of are moving by in a slippery kind of way. And as Jupiter goes into Pisces here, the moon is now in a sign-based trine with Jupiter, so the energy of Scorpio changes. The moon's energy there changes, I think. And that moon in Scorpio, let's look at it on the other chart here. So it's picking up on some good energy from Jupiter for sure, I think. Even though it's not really, it's more in applying this square to Saturn here. So in this moment where Jupiter is now, we're like in a good place in everyone's chart, really. I mean, not everybody, but for most people, or for a lot of people, this will be really a very welcome sense of change to the energy. You can finally let a lot of stuff just kind of hang in a way, Jupiter and Pisces. But the moon there is really in an uncomfortable position with Saturn. And there's a desire to suddenly make a change that accords with the structure more or less. I want to say that this Saturn-Uranus square, just being kind of locked in this place for so long, like, it's like the innovations or like the glitches in reality that, or in structures that Uranus can represent, themselves becoming institutions, and themselves being integrated into the structure, so that there's whole structures of these innovations or these things that were discovered almost like impossibly in the structure here. Ooh, that was a mouthful. But the moon applying to that has to reckon with these with that with these innovations or glitches that have themselves become the system, become the institution. And I've been watching Mario 64 speed runs, and just seeing like how these things that have been almost like randomly found out or found out through computer means have become the way, they become the structure of things. So the poor old moon in Scorpio doesn't really like to deal with that. The moon just wants things to go on, and they will, but it's an uncomfortable moment where things have to accord with both of those possibilities there. And we haven't even spoken to Mercury on Venus, retrograde. So Mercury on Venus there. Really continuing with what we've already talked about, just with like these situational and mood changes. Not too much difference there. Just kind of I guess coming to a critical moment here. Mercury, Venus can be artistic. It can be filmic, even, especially. So it can be a type of authentic or otherwise creative, innovative, creative expression here. You could be really, your mind is an opportunity for your mind and your body to be working really well together here. So maybe going outside or like being in nature could be really invigorating here. Because I think a lot of people are really working through this the trauma of the past, and bringing that to awareness and releasing that in a way. And so the moon in Scorpio, still not comfortable really, is applying that trine to Neptune, and Mars and Saturn perfect this sextile. So I think maybe on Wednesday it's like really like the bodily awareness of how these things are changing, especially with regard to Jupiter and Saturn being in different signs now. It's good for Jupiter, not really great for Saturn. So the moon still is applying to Neptune, and this is a different Neptune than we've had. I think Jupiter in Pisces Neptune is different than just I guess Jupiter in Aquarius Neptune, really. So I think there's a much brighter sense of hope here, whether that really bears out or not. It is more a helpful time in terms of being hopeful, and I think this is at the beginning of that sense of, yeah, we can be optimistic, but tempering that optimism with like a sense of realism. And I think that that bears out for years and years and years and years. That theme, as we have Neptune and Saturn coming into co-presence for years. But this Jupiter-Neptune co-presence is pretty cool, I think, for a while. But the Mercury will be on top of Pluto, so there's something that comes out about something that was hidden. Or maybe things are being actively buried at this time as well, could be. So the moon in Scorpio, really different than that moon in Libra time that we just had, even though Jupiter's in Pisces. But as soon as the moon, gets into, actually the moon in Scorpio makes these sextile to Venus retrograde, Pluto, Mercury before they go into Sagittarius. So there's another, this morning here has a lot to it in terms of purging all that out and becoming aware of those themes and those as part of our chart. It's really getting the cleanup here, really, apparently. So it's a good moment for that. And I think we're ready to speak about it. We're ready to take impulsive actions. So I mean, you do kind of want to check yourself here if you're doing anything a little bit too impulsively. Bringing awareness to the situation more than trying to do anything about it, I think. Even though you probably will be active. But the moon will go over the south node in Scorpio for the first time. There's something new that we're really purging out here. Something that we're overly comfortable with in this area of our chart. And even though there haven't been any eclipses in Scorpio yet, you will see this draining out of things start to occur there. But the moon will go into Sagittarius and make a square to Jupiter later on, in a few minutes after that. So that'll be later in the afternoon. Jupiter, the moon square. The moon is in Jupiter's sign, making a square to Jupiter, who's in his own sign. And Mars is there. So not really a great moment for the moon, weirdly enough. Although I do think this feels pretty good. Maybe that square there is like, I don't know. Maybe things kind of seeming almost too good. And that's that Jupiter-Neptune co-presence even. In a way. Kind of playing back with that. Or maybe things feel so good and like we just want to really go, and that kind of is a shock to the system at first. But sounds good. I mean, and then the moon makes that sextile to Saturn as we get into Friday. So the moon immediately is applying this sextile to Saturn all the rest of Thursday, Thursday night, into Friday morning. And we have that sextile to Mars before the conjunction to, the sextile to Saturn before that conjunction to Mars. So overall, I think Friday there is pretty good. The moon is applying to both the malevolent planets, but it's like held up by a Jupiter that's, got his own clothes on. He's in his own home. He's in his own space and governance, not performing governance for Saturn here. So the moon is in a good way, but applying to malevolent planets at the same time. Probably still feeling pretty good, although this will be, for both day and night people, this will be problematic in some way. But the moon will continue through there, feeling pretty good. And then this Neptune thing comes in late on Friday night. So kind of like towards the end of the day on Friday. This is New Year's, so I mean this is like extra New Year's Eve for a lot of people. No way people won't just be totally plastered. So definitely happening. So be careful on New Year's. It'll definitely get extra washed out, extra big, probably going too big here with all this Jupiter stuff, and people getting extra messed up on drugs. So be careful for yourself and others there. But on New Year's Day, the Sun will make a trine to Uranus, and then the Mercury will make a trine to the North Node, and sextile the South Node, and the Moon will go into Capricorn. So New Year's Day, probably, this could be a bad hangover, so I wouldn't recommend it really. You know, we had such a malefic activation on New Year's Eve. You know, probably the signs were there to exercise some restraint, discipline, caution, but there will be, for a lot of people, going overboard, probably not feeling too great in the morning here. So the morning, you know, the Mercury making the trine to the North Node, so the moon is void, of course, but Mercury is in the 29th degree of Capricorn, bringing a message about these last few degrees of Capricorn, which are very interesting, seeing that Pluto will be going over them. The Jupiter-Saturn conjunction happened on them, so we've been bringing a lot of mercurial energy here, mixing with the Venus and the Pluto, really making a lot of communication about you know, abuse, trauma, untoward relationships, really becoming very clear here, for one thing. So Mercury there in the 29th, it's a very fateful, you can see how fateful that is towards where we're going with these eclipses, and so that sort of gets played into there, if you catch my drift. So pretty good for Mercury. Mercury is playing an important role, you know. So I don't know what else to say about that. Could be extra, like, kind of frantic with Mercury, though. The moon will go into Capricorn and make that sextile to Jupiter. Feels good, I guess. I mean, it really does. I think these Capricorn moons, while Jupiter's in Pisces, will be really fun. More fun than they have been. And there's, you know, save it for next week, but this is the new moon. You know, it looks pretty good. You know, Jupiter, you see that red square has been there, but that's, you know, that's the North and the South Node. It's just a very fatal moment, very fatal time. The new moon will be a good opportunity to make these changes that you've been intending to make in this area of your life. Really, things are moving on there, because Venus will be immediately receiving the light of this new moon. Definitely a very new moment if you've been allowing this process of things being cleared out with you, in your relationships, in your the areas that Venus affects in your life, in this Capricorn area as well. So definitely a very welcome start, a new start to things here in the beginning of the year. So this is launching a lot of new ambitious things for a lot of people, a lot of new projects. Getting seeded here. So, and the Mercury will be in Aquarius here, starting next week. So we'll get into next week when we do. Alright, I appreciate you watching my video. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. I saw I had some new subscribers. Thank you. Thank you for the good you do out in the world. Well, I hope you can just keep the faith, keep believing, you know. Yeah, it's a question of believing on God's authority. That's what Jesus came to give. So I hope you'll believe in God for His wisdom and understanding, so that you can grow in grace and the knowledge of Christ and the riches of Christ that we can share in them together. So we praise you, Jesus Christ. We thank God in Jesus' name. Amen. So I hope you have a good week out there. I hope things turn around for you. And I'll hear from you when I do. So have a good week, and I'll see you next time.